there were a lot of names that you were being called, and now we've seen your polls making correct. Now let's call it informative predictions are put all together in election. So I'm sure maybe nobody will now call you names again. Okay, so
just a vote count as we did. 2,095 people went for Haruna, 1,693 went for Mosquito, 1,293 for Atuforsin, 728 for Deborah, and so on and so forth. That gave us these numbers we have for you. So basically what we saw earlier on is what we're showing now. Now, look at the change that has happened between July and September. In July, among the public, Haruna 27%. Now he's 30%, up 3%. Asibin Kija was 26%, now 24%, down 2%. Atuforsin was 22%, down 18%.
And I'm sure it's because of what the dollar is doing now. People are angry.
Deborah was 11%, now 10%. And then Ablakwa was 8%, still 8%. Nothing has changed. But the others moved from 6% to 10%. What you have seen is that those who have come into the race have hit Atuforsin, Mosquito, and Deborah.
Interesting. And Asiedu Ketia seems to have lost 2 votes.
2%.
Haruna is
getting 3%.
Interesting. And what makes this again interesting for me is the fact that we've seen Asiedu Ketia go on some thank you tour after the flag bearer has gone for his thank you tour. We've seen Atuforsin, Julius Deborah doing a lot of K-Fit activities, jogging, going for a lot of events and being the guest and all those things. We have not seen too much outdooring of Haruna in that regard.
Yep.
So it's interesting that even when he has not put himself out in a sublime way to say that the people are saying that they prefer him.
So far he's leading.
Yes. Interesting.
Now, the same data analyzed by party affiliation. Among MPP, who do they prefer? Among NDC, who would they prefer? Among floating voters, who would they prefer? Other parties, and not disclosed. Look, almost half of NPP voters are voting for Asiedu Ketia and Haruna Iddrisu.
50%?
Yes. 25 for Asiedu Ketia, 25 for Haruna Iddrisu. But only 18 for Atuforsin, 13 for Julius, and 8% for Ablakwa, and the rest follow. When it comes to the NDC, 25% prefer Asiedu Ketia. But again, still, Haruna Iddrisu, 33% among NDC folks.
Right.
He's doing better in NDC than the national average of 30%.
Wow.
Atuforsin 20%. He's doing better in the NDC than the national average. Julius Deborah is 7%. Ablakwa 7%. Then the rest follow. Among floating voters, Nketia on 24%, Haruna on 27%. Asiedu Atuforsin 16%, Deborah 16%, Ablakwa 9%.
Then the other parties also Haruna. So Haruna seems to be...
Yeah, he seems to be dominating.
Yes.
For now.
And again, just to say that these are what the people out there are saying they want.
Yes.
So not because the people have said that we want to do this or the other.
No.
People are saying, even whether you want to go or not, they are saying that these are the people we would want them to go.
Yes.
Okay.
The numbers, again, among NDC voters.
So these are for NDC voters?
Yes. For NDC voters, Iddrisu was 30%, now 33%, up 3%. Mosquito 24%, now 25%, up 1%. Atuforsin was 22%, now 20%, down 2%. For Julius Deborah, 11%, down 4%. And then Ablakwa 8%, now 1%. Those who came in, it was 5%, it's gone up to 8%. So they have fed from the drop in Atuforsin and Deborah and the rest.
Wow. I'm not surprised with Haruna, but we've always thought that the NDC voters preferred the general. So now it looks like they prefer Haruna. We have an idea what Haruna's age is.
Haruna, I think 54. 54. So if you look at this mathematics here, look, add the proportion of voters NDC guys are giving Haruna, 33.
Yes.
If you add that of Atuforsin, what, 20?
20.
5-3. Look for the younger one, Ablakwa.
Ablakwa, 7.
If you add, what do you get?
Wow. That's like 60.
62 or so.
Yes.
So 62% of NDC voters are voting for younger people below 55 years of age.
It will be interesting. I mean, and this is not to tell the NDC what to buy. It will be interesting to have a Haruna Atuforsen ticket or a Haruna Okujeto ticket or a Asiedu ticket. We'll talk about. I mean, later we'll have another time to look.
We have a long time to come.
Yes,
So subsequently,
Akan, other tribes combination and all those in there.
Geographical block. This is quite for NDC.
Right.
Among the Akan blocks, that is the Eastern region, Western region, Central region, Bono, Ahafo, Bono East, Ashanti region, and Western North. I said in Kita 29%, Atuforsen 21%, Haruna 20%, Julius 14%, Ablakwa 7%. Again, if you add the vote of these younger people together, 41,
21,
so 48.
48. So what it means that even in the Akan block,
the younger people are still pulling numbers.
they are pulling numbers, and strangely, you find Haruna, who is not an Akan,
in
doing very well
third position just behind
in the
Atuforsen.
Akan block.
So this breaks this ethnic barrier. This is something different. Gen Z voters, they are not
looking at
no.
They are not looking at it. Wow. Let's see.
And then here the northern block, all the northern regions put together, Haruna is sweeping all of them there.
Yes. And you still find Atuforsen and Okujeto in here.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, I think my time is fast spent. Let me look at the Volta. So
Volta voting block. Ablakwa there.
Ablakwa goes there. Least Haruna again is standing now.
Atuforsen there.
Atuforsen there.
Then
So these three are showing everywhere.
And in the swing regions.
The swing regions again.
Look at this.
1, 2, 3. They are there. Okay. Musa,
I think we can end here.
We need to get another time to discuss this further, because like you said, this is a developing. The NDC side is a developing story. Again, these people have not all declared interest yet, so we can't. But then it's good for us to play with data to
and then we can see how the numbers are moving as people leave, as they come in.
Right.
You can see that. Look, how many is Akan block? Amabo Akan.
Yes.
Or Spio Akan.
Wadaku
Akan.
Eric Opoku
Akan. Julius Debra Akan. Mosquito Akan. So the Akan vote is split.
Yes.
Whereas the northern candidates kind of rally behind their own.
Right. Viewers. So this has been an informative session. This has been looking into the data. Again, as we said, this is not predictive. This is just to tell the various people who intend to want to lead their political parties what the public is saying, what delegates or what party, sorry, not delegates, what party faithfuls are saying, who they say they want to lead them. How these people decide to want to use this information is entirely up to them. It's informative, like the CEO of the Global Info Analytics has said. It's informative. It's up to you how you want to use it. You can use this as a guide to re-strategize on how you are campaigning, or you can use this as a fighting mechanism on social media to debunk and say that it is not true. But the reality is the reality. Data does not lie. So if the data is saying that you are at this stage, you are not doing well, there's 4 months, and this I'm speaking to the MPP, you have 4 months ahead of you to change the narrative. You have 4 months ahead of you to maintain the lead if you are Bawumia. If you are any of the other ones and you would want to run and lead, you have 4 months to do that. Well, welcome back to the studio following the discussion with Musa. Current agenda is live, still live on GTV, GBC News, and also live on Radio Ghana. You can reach us with your comments via WhatsApp 053-110-1315. I repeat 053-110-1315. 053-110-1315. Please share your comments, contribute, make it very interactive, and we'll do well to share your view with the general public. Well, back in studio, I have with me Hamza Suhini Esquire. He's a former board chairman for the Railway Development Authority. Oh, okay. Road fund rather. Okay. So he's a former board chairman.
Or board member.
Yeah, member. You
want to give me?
You still are?
You want to give me? No. I
want to take somebody's post for you.
Board member. Ghana.
Manifesto. Hamza, good morning.
I'm not interested in.
Good
morning, my brother. Good morning, my brother.
I hope you.
I am comfortable where I am. Yeah. I'm doing well, my brother.
Right. I also have with me a former regional minister for the Eastern Region, Honorable Seth Kwame Champon. Honorable, good morning.
Good morning.
How has it been 9 months out of government?
Oh, this is Ghana. We can't do without it. I love my country.
Right.
I'm happy. And I'm seeing my brother Kwame for a very long time. I haven't sighted him.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Once you've mentioned Kwame, I have Kwame Owusu Danso, Esquire. He's also a lawyer and a political strategist. Kwame.
My brother.
I'm praying to have this quietness in my beard also.
You see, it's as though I'm older than Kwame, but Kwame is older than me. But I'm following.
You know that we don't use beard.
I'm following him. Yeah, I'm following him instead. So
right,
yeah.
Right. And I also have with me Dr. Akpeku Agbevadi. He's a senior lecturer at the Department of Political Science at the University of Ghana, Legon. Doc, good morning.
Good morning.
I hope you're good.
You're managing. Thanks for having me.
And to join us via Zoom would be Dr. John Osei Kwapon from the CDD Ghana. So once he joins, it's Osei, and that's the pronunciation. Yeah, he's from your hometown.
He's my old boy.
Your old boy. Okay, right. So once he joins, we would introduce him to the audience. So I'll start with Hamza. Hamza, we just had an almost 1 hour discussion with Musa on some analysis done across the scale or the scope of the nation from the highest point to the lowest. And he's telling us what the general public, those who are qualified to vote, are saying in regards to the NPP. So let's start with the NPP, even though you are not from the NPP. But what do you make of the information, especially the bit about the people wanting young leaders going forward?
Good morning to you once again, and of course to my brothers in the studio and your production team. Kojo, I have always had enormous respect for data, especially when it comes to political analysis. Being a student of political science myself, political science student myself, I think that it is only proper and fair that I hold such reverence when it comes to research and data-driven politics. And it is based on that I hold enormous respect for the likes of Musa Danquah and what he has been able to achieve, especially in the last 1 or 2 years. But in reality, I think that what he has presented in relation to the New Patriotic Party is not something that has not been expected by many of us. That's the gospel truth. We've always known that the contest is going to be an interesting one because of the kind of personalities who have suddenly expressed interest in that said contest. Because I remember clearly that prior to the 2024 election, the likes of Honorable Kwabena Agyapong was one of the pivotal pillars around Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. And when I heard that he was going to pick a form to contest against Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, it didn't come to me as a surprise. Because this is one gentleman who has demonstrated his commitment to principles within the New Patriotic Party and not to personalities. I'm told that he and Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo also had their own share of disagreements in terms of party structure. So I was quite disappointed in the political dexterity of Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia when he failed to be guided by history and decided to bring that gentleman very close to his inner, if you like, circles as far as his ambitions were concerned. I knew that this day was coming, and so I'm not surprised that he has eventually decided to pick a form as well. Then, of course, the almighty in quotes, Kennedy Agyapong, undoubtedly a force to reckon with, because even in power, he made it extremely difficult for Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. People should not forget that even as sitting vice president and Kennedy Agyapong, simply a party member and a member of parliament, managed to win certain regions in the last election. Especially, I'm making references here to the internal primaries of the New Patriotic Party. He managed to win from that weaker position. Today, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has lost something because he's no more the sitting vice president of the Republic of Ghana. He may have all the goodwill, but in reality, this contest is going to be a very difficult contest for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. And so the prediction of a likely runoff did not come to me as a surprise. When it comes to the age dynamics, Kojo, interestingly, on my way here, I was listening to the analysis of my brother Musa Dankwa. And I've always been a little bit reluctant, especially when it comes to the issue of gender politics and ageism in our political discourse. Any research you seek to conduct about the possibility of even a female president, you are likely to get many of your respondents saying that they are up for it. But in reality, it is mostly not the picture when a female candidate is presented on the ballot. The United States of America encountered that problem with the likes of Hillary Clinton, if you remember. And so, same with age. Depending on how you design your questionnaire, you are likely to elicit a certain response from your respondents who would give you an impression as though they want a younger person. And that, for me, that is why the Greater Accra figures were quite intriguing and interesting. Because if you look at the regional dynamics, Greater Accra is more or less the nerve center of exposure and westernization. And if you look at even educational figures, I'm pretty much convinced that this region would lead. And so it was quite surprising to me that this region rather seemed not to be so interested in the issue of age. And you know that this region is connected to many of the 15 regions in one way or the other. And many of the players within Greater Accra would have some measured influence when it comes to what happens in other areas of the country. Many of these people, especially from the north, will take decisions based on what we tell them to do. If you are a breadwinner of your family, you are likely to get them go your way because you are in Accra, you are the one who sends down all the money, or you pay the fees. So they look up to you. In their minds, they are supporting their brother, they are supporting their sister, they are supporting their auntie, they are supporting their uncle, who also takes care of them.
Right.
And so the findings in terms of ageism, especially in relation to Greater Accra, is quite intriguing. And that tells you also that just like the issue of gender, when you go and you frame a question about the issue of age, many of our people are likely to tell you that no, let's go for a younger person. But in truth, these are determined by the forces at the top.
Okay.
If the grassroots, those who are even convinced, genuinely, I am part of the group who feels that the time has come for us to consider having younger leaders. But the reality also is that when those on the ground eventually realize the direction of the kingmakers, for want of a better word,
would align.
They are likely to align regardless of age.
Noted.
And so, could you know?
No, this is just the.
No, but let me finish now. Don't force me to crash land. With the greatest of respect, you have the patience of listening to Musa Dankwa for over an hour. Yes. It's only fair that you give me an opportunity.
So I can give you an
respond appropriately to the.
And you're asking for an hour too?
No.
Okay.
But if you can be generous, I wouldn't say no. But out of respect to my colleagues in the studio, I don't think.
Okay, please, 1 more minute. Just try and end it.
With the new Patriotic Party, I think that we have made that point severally. That they are at the crossroads. And unfortunately for them, their greatest challenge today has to do with the issue of leadership. We saw, irrespective of the misgivings you would have had about Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, we saw Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo provided that anchor of leadership immediately after the 2008 defeat. He held the party together, largely maybe because of his persona. Unfortunately, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has not been able to position himself to be that anchor for the party to pivot around in their time of crisis. It is the reason why the party appears to have lost focus and to be in a state of confusion. It boils down to leadership. And those who have been conversant with our political space are likely to begin to ask these questions as to whether indeed Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has what it takes to lead the party, even if they decide to give him their mandate? And these are questions I am interested in. Because we saw the likes of Nana Addo. Even before his eventual election for the 2012 election as official flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, everybody knew that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo was that leader of the party and was virtually in charge of the party. Today, under Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, unfortunately, he's not been able to demonstrate that mettle. He's not been able to show that he's on top of the game. He's not been able to. He has not been able to demonstrate that he is in charge, like Nana Addo did, or if you like Dr. What's his name? His Excellency John Dramani Mahama now did. Because even Mahama, in his silence after 2016, it was clear within the National Democratic Congress that look, this is the man, and so everybody pivoted around him. I do not see that kind of energy and synergy taking shape as far as the Mahamudu Bawumia candidature is concerned. And that is a worry. Because you see, if you take him out, you are having to deal with a rabble-rouser in the person of Kennedy Ohini Ajapong. And the question we should be asking ourselves as a country is that we have seen the likes of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, especially when the NDC raised the red flags before 2008 and continued saying in 2012 about the potential dangers we were likely to subject our democracy to if Nana Addo was given the mandate. We took that for granted. Today, Kennedy's activities are not hidden from us. Reckless political commentary laced with ethnic bigotry,
Right.
careless commentary on our socio-economic development as a country. And the question we should be asking ourselves, are these the kind of people that the NPP is left with? Brian Achampong, another individual who demonstrated, even as a cabinet minister, his willingness to purchase state properties and assets without shame. And these are the kind of people that they have paraded as possible leaders of the New Patriotic Party. So it tells you that indeed the New Patriotic Party is in a crisis and is in dire need
So Hamza, now
of a personality to transform the political party. And I do not see that in any of those who have gone to be leaders of the New Patriotic
I'll
Party.
crash land you. Even though I know this is why you are using a parachute, so you are happy. Honorable, I am being told that your party people prefer a younger person, but yet if you look at the ages of all the people you are presenting, I think the youngest would be Brian, who is 52. 52, 61, 61, 62, 65. Do you agree to the findings that people prefer younger leaders or a younger leader going to the 2028 election? If that is the case, then what is the stakes for your race in January 31st?
Thank you very much, and good morning to your good self and my co-panelists. Interestingly, you in your outset told us from your engagement with Musa that what Musa is putting out is informative, and it's become clear around the conversation that data is useful. So it's news to us, and as a political party, in rebuilding our political party, we take on board some of these facts when they come before us and then plan around them and see how we can employ them to be of a great appreciation to our forward movement. I am happy that we are all being informed by the way people are reasoning, the way people are thinking. And so as we get out there, because as a political party, you are a vehicle for ensuring that you mold our country for our country's people to enjoy. So it is part of the things we are going to consider and then work with. Like, you know, we are home now, we're in opposition. Once you come home in opposition, this is the time that you have to take, sober reflections, look at what you were able to do rightly and how you can improve upon them. Likewise, what you didn't do right or do well on, how you can adjust and make it look better and appealing to the people you are going to market yourself to. So for us, it's a sober reflection movement. Now, we have decided as a political party to go for an early presidential primary. It's, we've never done that before. That's not been the tradition. But in this instance, the party decided to go about it this way. I'm happy, but my joy is really cemented on the fact that it was a matter which was accepted by the highest decision-making body of our political party, the National Council. And once my party accepts, it is for all of us to be on board to help push it. I will not, and I pray that they say that it is everybody in the political party who was happy about that decision. It is not everybody in the political party who was happy about that decision.
Were you?
But the most important thing is that the moment a decision is taken by the political party, you are bound, duty bound, to ensure that we defend it and we defend it well. So I believe in that decision, and we have to work with that decision. Where there is a will, there's always a way. I will admit that, yes, we made some errors, but I don't see my former colleague, my senior brother, Kennedy, being such a very bad ethno-bigotry person like Hamza was trying to portray him to be. If I sit here and I don't speak well for Kennedy, I'll be sad. I lived in Parliament with him for 3 terms, and I know who he is. Yes, we may have 1 or 2 challenge with his output, but I don't think he's that person as a character. No. Likewise, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, I think he's made himself clear who he is by nature. Very warm person, very calm person. But I remember a quote former President Kufuor made in one of his interviews, and it goes in account that in I didn't plead for permission before I went vernacular.
No, you can. It's okay.
Since this is people you see who are very calm in demeanor, you have to watch them, because you may underrate them, you might underestimate them.
Will it not be?
But don't use that. Don't
associate and funny. Yes, so that's. So you said it the other way around.
Oh, really?
Yes. So associate and funny.
And so so thank you for the correction.
Yeah.
So don't think that Dr. Bawumia is weak. No, I don't see that. And then history must be, well situated. Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo was elected at our last Legon primaries in 2007, in December, and subsequently went ahead to win the 2011 primaries as well, and then won the 2015 primaries as well. This should speak for a season and, was serious. So it shows how strong he was in the political party. As our first national organizer of the political party, you cannot, in any sense, not be in the known that he's a very strong person of the political party. But you talk about Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has been a running mate since 2008 and become the vice president and subsequently the running mate of the political party. So he's also a very well-known person in the political party. But there are 2 different characters. So you will not see the kind of leadership Nana Addo provided in the MPP. And mind you, Nana Addo only became a leader after he'd been elected. And so you cannot measure it in that sense. Likewise, my brother Kwabena Agyapong, engineer. Kwabena has been a mentor. He's a big brother. We speak so well. In fact, I must admit, he was the first person to approach me when these primaries started. And we had a very, useful conversation and moved on. But I want to assure Ghanaians that MPP is not at a crossroads. We have issues, we have difficulties, but we are emerging out of those difficulties. The issues that we are handling are human-centered. And anytime you're dealing with a human society, mind you, you would face matters that you have to mediate, and some you have to compromise on to be able to progress. So for me, I will put it out there, as a person who have, dabbled in this body politic for the last 16 to 20 years, it is nothing new to me. I dare remind my brother Hamza, when President Rawlings left office in the year 2000, and President Mills of blessed memory became candidate and lost to President Kufuor, and he was going for re-election. And then NDC was also remolding, and Dr. Lawyer Obed Asamoah, who eventually became the chairman of the party, and Mrs. Rawlings subsequently also, after her popularity in the 31st December Women's Movement, putting herself up for leadership. It was no joke. My sister Frances Asiem, that I remember so well during our days in student politics, became the women's organizer. At an election in Koforidua, Frances had to leave, and that's how come she eventually left NDC and became a person of the NPP. Dr. Obed Asamoah could not move from his seat to get out of the election hall to even go to attend to nature's call. That's how terrible the system was at the time. But today, we find a repackaged National Democratic Congress leading our country. They did not wither. Likewise, New Patriotic Party, we are going to emerge much more stronger. And they should watch the space.
Watch the space. Watch the space. Doc, I mean, being an academic, this is data presented, and this, I know, research is your field. Anything you probably found wrong with it? I know you are not in the political space, so I won't take you there. So we are going in the academic. The presentation, his margins of error, the sample size, does it sit well? Does it give a good information as to what the people are actually saying?
Thank you very much. Good morning to you, and then my co-panelists, and then the viewers. Mr. Musa Darkwa has established the reputation as a pollster over the years, and most of his predictions have come to pass. The main issue is his methodology. And by methodology, one, I will talk about his sample size. From what was presented, he had a sample size of 9,000 plus. Yes. And just taking the last elections, we had about 18 million people voting. Yes. So looking at his sample size and then the population, I think it doesn't really represent the reality, though his past polls have indicated something close to what actually happened. Now, so one, the sample size, I think if he expands it, it will help. Two, the respondents, how did he come up with the respondents who he administered the instruments to?
I think he mentioned that he did random sampling.
Yes, he did.
So one is telephone, one is on the street walking and asking people questions. That's what he mentioned.
Yeah, so,
that answers your question.
Yeah, if he used telephone, he decides whom to call.
Right.
So looking at this, and of course meeting people on the street here and there, there is the probability of he skewing the respondents. I'm not saying that's what he did, but then there's a probability that the respondents could be skewed. And then the next thing is that there's what we call the politics of social science research. And in every research, every researcher has his own biases or his ideological predispositions that virtually have the potential, the capacity to influence the findings. And if these things are made clear, and then the other issue is about, when we are talking about the policy of social science research, we are also talking about the funding for the research. Of course, he who pays the piper calls the tune. So these are some of the methodological issues that I want to
You've got my panel to be laughing. Oh, please go on.
These are some of the methodological issues
Yes.
that I want to raise with his work. So one, the sample size, how he arrived at the
So let's
respondent.
stand on the sample size. So for a voter population, if you use the last election, around 18 million, what sample size would be ideal? Is there a percentage you're supposed to use? Should you represent, like, let's say 10%? Is there a percentage that becomes a reflection? Because he used a social analogy that if you have a pot of soup and you just take a spoon, the taste in the spoon or the soup in the spoon will not be different from the what in the pot. But of course, academics, research, definitely you cannot say that when you take the viewpoint of 5 people, you can use that to reflect that of 80 million. So what percentage should be ideal per literature, per research?
Well, I think the issue at stake is, the concern is how representative is the sample size compared to the population. Yes, so if he is able to give us a size that is representative, that will hold water. But as I said, over the years, he has proven that his findings are reality, though most of it he tries to confirm. His research confirms what is already known.
Okay, so if I hear you, what you're saying, and it's interesting, I mean, coming from the academia. So what I hear you saying, 2 things. One is that the sample size used in this particular instance cannot ordinarily or be said to reflect the general number of population that voted. However, in previous predictions or in previous surveys that he has done, his predictions or his outcomes come close to reality. But that reality is not a reality that everybody did not know in the first place.
Exactly.
So basically what you're saying is that it's not hidden on us that Dr. Bawumia is in the lead. So he predicting that it's nothing different from what the grounds are already saying.
Yes, I would say yes to that. I would say yes to that. But the point is that politics is a matter of message. Politics is a matter of policy. Politics is a matter of character. And as time progresses, from now till January, either Bawumia winning or not winning, from now till January will determine that. But then if you look at historical data and then trends analysis, the indicators are all favoring Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. Now, historically, the NPP since 1996 presents a particular candidate over a period, or has presented a particular candidate over a period. For instance, when former President Kufuor emerged on the scene in 1996, he couldn't win. He went back in 1998, he contested the primaries, and then he won. And then he came back in 2000 and then won the election after the second ballot. Then the immediate past president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, when he also won the primaries in 2007, what happened was that he couldn't win the 2008 elections. That's even though he won the first round, but then the second round he couldn't win. In 2012, he contested with His Excellency President Mahama, he couldn't win until he had his third attempt at the presidency. And then he made history by defeating a sitting president. So if you look at this trajectory of election or electing presidential candidate in the MPP, I will strongly argue that Musa Dakwe's research output is on point, right? But then that notwithstanding, you also realize that within the NPP, most of the people who supported former Vice President Bawumia, most of them, some of them have shifted camp. For instance, you take somebody like Honorable Brana Champon. He was in Bawumia's camp. You take somebody like Mr. Kwabena Ejapon, who actually contested the primaries and then couldn't make it. But then he was also actively involved in
His campaign.
Bawumia's campaign, Educhum, Honorable, and all the rest. Right? So now that these people are moving, what it means is that Bawumia is going to lose some votes because those people also have followers. Now, again, another factor that may try to undermine Musa Dakwa Minister's research output is that His Excellency Bawumia, though a flag bearer, made some suicidal comments, which I think were not good. And then it boils down to the issue of leadership and loyalty. This is someone who was a member, of course, the vice president. And then in his outdooring speech, he tried to dissociate himself from key policies of the NPP.
Right.
For instance, the e-levy, betting tax, and then he tried to dissociate himself from it. So that brings in the issue of leadership and character,
Right.
which are very, very key in electoral politics.
Okay.
And then, of course, to add,
And that will be your last addition.
yes, the last primaries, he was fortunate to benefit from incumbency. And then we had the issue of the establishment candidate. But this time around, he is not going to get those benefits again. And so these are some of the factors that may challenge the probability of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia winning the
Kwame.
primaries.
Political strategies. If you're presented with this data, like my senior lecturer said, politics is about matters of strategy, matters of message. If you're presented with this data as a political analyst or strategist, how best will you put to use?
Yeah, I think that it is important that, you know, in using data, you juxtapose same with the foundational blocks upon which your political party was built. And there's no gainsaying the fact that the NPP as a political party was built on certain specific principles, i.e. that there was some form of succession plan. You know, that from the very beginning, former President John Agyekum Kufuor fought, won the baton, won the election. Whether it was a party's decision at the time or not, there was this agreement that after him, a certain candidate in the name of Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo was going to take over from him. And one would have thought that that foundational blocks upon which the party was built would have continued with Alan Kojo Kyerematen. And you would notice that there was a certain truncation of that whole historical process which had guided and guarded the NPP, you know, in this Fourth Republican dispensation. And so you would see that this, if you like, truncation is what, in my estimation, respectfully, has created this whole conversation about who would be able to lead the party and who would be able to better represent the ideals of the NPP. You would notice that in the submission of my lecturer here,
he makes the point of some of the leaders of the party who emerged, not being able to win the first round and came back subsequently to win. But that is also predicated on the historical underpinnings of the political party. That because the people who were given the opportunity from the beginning were unable to win and came back, were part of the, if you like, the skills that built the political party. They had some formidable force within the rank and file of the party. So it was easier for them to come back and lead the party, That you cannot say same for Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, with the greatest of respect. I have, monitored him. I have monitored his conduct. I've monitored how he's conducted himself. I've monitored how he's tried or appeared to be gravitating towards the grassroots. I've monitored how his team is trying so hard to make sure that, people fall in love with him within the party. Because as you are all aware, he is not really a party person. He's not really a party person. He isn't, for want of a better expression. They all know that. He was not a card-bearing member of the NPP. So that is where the confusion really is, right? However, I think we must also make the point that the last election presented some seismic shift in this whole political architecture that we have been experiencing from 1992, because we have never, of course, we've seen defeat and things like that, but I think this one was very monumental, to the extent that the NPP lost so much in terms of, representation in parliament and in terms of votes. And the decision to choose a leader, right, must find expression in what accounted for this humiliating defeat in 2024. And for me, to see Honorable Brian Acheampong, who, as you have indicated, was a member of Dr. Bawumia's camp, to see the Honorable Kwabena Agyapong, who undoubtedly had expressed interest prior of leading the party, also contest independently, even after supporting Dr. Bawumia, it is evident that the party, in my estimation, respectfully, is intending to depart from the record of Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, which led to this humiliating defeat that they experienced in 2024. And so, yes, Dr. Bawumia, because automatically, because he was the vice president, they thought that he had, if you like, the support of some of the people who are in power now. You understand? Who are still in positions of authority now within the party, and they also do have the finances to be able to run for the subsequent elections, etc. So yes, Dr. Bawumia, I agree. Kennedy Agyapong, because he felt that during the administration of Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, a lot of the people who supported the party come into power in 2016 were neglected. And I think it was quite axiomatic, even with the way they conducted themselves. And all the polls led to that conclusion, that because they had neglected the people down there, they were not going to get the support of the people. And so if you check, and I think you've seen the numbers, the polls, you would notice that even NPP people, some NPP people voted for the NDC. So then how do we ensure that for those disgruntled NPP members, we bring them back to ensure that we have a unified front for the purposes of going into the 2028 election? I think that is the most fundamental, very important question which ought to be answered, and which must guide the people who are going to vote to elect their leader in January, is it 31st, right? How do we build the party after the 2024 defeat? That's the fundamental question. Number one, the identification of the non-satisfaction of the grassroots should be of paramount importance in arriving at that decision. That, yes, we admit that the grassroots were not happy. That is what led to that. Also, you cannot run away from the record of the Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo administration. You recall that there were so many things which were wrong with the administration, which were pointed out by political parties, by CSOs, by independent-minded people. But those suggestions were met with brute resistance. And that ultimately led to this humiliating defeat. So you cannot run away from that fact. Now, if you are not going to run away from that fact, then Dr. Bawumia, who was really an integral part, and particularly so when he was the one who trumpeted a number of the policies that the Akufo-Addo administration failed to implement, right, is contesting in the primaries. Then the question becomes, is he going to campaign in the event that he wins to become the flag bearer of the party, on the successes or otherwise of the Akufo-Addo administration? Will Ghanaians consider him as the person who would best lead the country in the event that he wins? These are very important questions we should ought to do. So what are the dynamics here? You have...
And do that in 1 minute for me.
You have Dr. Bawumia, who is warm as described by my brother Kwame. You have a feisty, fiery personality in Kennedy Ohene Japan. You have somebody who spearheaded a lot of the reforms in the educational sector, being Educhum and the others, right? What does the party need now? Do they need somebody who can unite the party through their fiery nature or their warm nature or their education-driven projects or policies? I think these are things that they ought to consider themselves and arrive at, But I think that in the final analysis, in the spirit of multi-party democracy, we do not want the NPP to crash. In the spirit of multi-party democracy, and most importantly, ensuring that we put the feet of this particular administration to the fire of responsibility, all opposing political parties must thrive. And so, in the conduct of their own internal elections, we do not want to see the crack further widened, so that they would have a unified front and be able to put the feet of this government to the fire of responsibility. This is very, very important, right. Whether we like it or not. As a country that is still, furthering our democratic
multi-party democracy,
it's important that we have strong oppositions, and which is why I'm saying that the NPP must conduct themselves in a manner that will continue to give Ghanaians confidence that maybe someday they would be able to get opportunity to govern.
I hope the Honorable Minister will send this information. We understand we've been joined on Zoom by Dr. Osai. Yep. That's what, yes. Doc, good morning. I'll come back to you in a minute. But Hamza, when Kwame was ending, he made a statement which I would want to use to introduce the next topic. He said, whoever it is that eventually leads the NPP, that person cannot run away from the facts of the failings of the previous government. He indicated that the one thing that the NPP needs to do is to first appeal and apologize to their disgruntled grassroots before they can even take the next step. We had the president apologize, in whichever terms you want to put it, for the debt restructuring when he went to Brussels.
He didn't apologize. He expressed concern.
But an apology can take different forms. He doesn't have to say, I'm sorry before you call it as an apology. The president says that he appreciates, it's one of his darkest, and if somebody says this, obviously the person is telling you that he feels bad for that decision, but it's a decision that had to be taken.
But that's not the same thing as an apology.
Okay, so you are saying he did not apologize?
Absolutely, and in any case, nobody is interested in an apology from His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo or Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. You see, that is the kind of lazy approach we have adopted when it comes to our politics, and that's why we are continually engaged in recycling failure. And for many of us who are young people and are desirous of a future that we can be very proud of, we will not contain this kind of lazy approach of attempting to rewrite our failures, especially after we have been given the mandate by the good people of this country. I do not subscribe to that kind of politics. Kojo, when His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo was campaigning to become president of the Republic of Ghana, his number one gong beater, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, now also aspiring to lead the New Patriotic Party, told the whole of this country that indeed all the resources we needed to develop this country was within. and that it was a mark of irresponsibility for the NDC John Dramani Mohammed's administration then to be engaged in borrowing. They attacked the reputation of this government, that government, for simply borrowing, and promised the good people of this country from lecture hall to lecture hall in our tertiary institutions. So it was not just the Ghanaian people that they poisoned in the markets. They took advantage of our labor force that would have required to feed into any industrial drive from our various universities. They started the poisoning there with Bahumia's lectures, where he questioned the modus operandi of the then NDC government, especially when it came to the economy of the Republic of Ghana. They told us they had all the answers to our economic problems. I remember, even in 2012, no, prior to that was even 2009, 2010, when Dr. Kwabena Duffuor presented a budget before Parliament and made references to the effects of global economic happenings. The NPP then took us to the cleaners and told us that it behoved on us. It was our responsibility to have ensured that we're able to contain many of these things. And so Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia featured in his lectures. His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo promised us that he was going to move Ghana from a third world country to a Gettysburg economy to a first class or first world economy. These were the promises they made. They told us that they were not going to borrow.
But they said they were doing it if not for COVID.
But I will get there. And when they won power and started spending recklessly, remember that this was a government that had accused the previous administration of destroying the economy and coming to meet nothing. If they had met nothing, you think that if John Dramani Mahama has handed over to them an empty coffers, they would have been able to implement free senior high school in their first year? Let us be honest in this country. And these were some of the critical questions that many of you didn't ask. They wouldn't have been able to do so. Because we started our recovery journey as far back in December or November 2015. But unfortunately, because the Ghanaian people had experienced a lot as a result of the commodity prices on the international stage that affected our local economy, our recovery was late. From century, what we called our homegrown policies. So it had prepared the economy for eventual takeoff. They were able, in the midst of an economy that they condemned, to implement free senior high school in their first year because the resources were there. Eurobond alone, in excess of 250 million, was left in there. So this was an administration that had all the fundamentals right to do well. And they decided to take that for granted. Look, you are talking about the fact that COVID. Remember that even the World Bank country director at the time said that before COVID, I think Christian Laporte, or that's his name, he was on record. He said that before COVID, Ghana's economy had shown zero signs of distress. Because we're dealing with a government that decided to even throw a kenke party for successfully borrowing. Kojo, after telling us in opposition that it was an irresponsible thing to do, they decided that was the level of mediocrity that the country was subjected to in the last 8 years. We decided in the midst of COVID to spend in excess of $74 million in digging the most expensive hole in the whole of West Africa. Do you call that responsibility? Do you call that responsibility?
But he said he's sorry.
Wait, you came in and met an external debt, our debt portfolio of been about 120 billion, 26 billion. By the time you left office, even when you started that borrowing spree, the NDC minority in parliament cautioned you and told you to apply the brakes. You failed to listen, and you handed over to us in excess of about 700 billion. 740, one or so, from 120 to 740. That is the record. And so what did we expect? When you attempted first to deal with us, to be able to position us in a way to be able to pay for your mess, you went to e-levy. The NDC minority then told you that it was an irresponsible thing to do. You refused and told us that e-levy was going to solve all the problems that you had. And could you remember that even in the midst of COVID, many African countries were doing better than Ghana? That tells you the level of mess that they had created. Did COVID solve the problem? Then you came with the debt exchange program and told us that there were not going to be haircuts. Before the program was launched, we all came to an appreciation that indeed there was going to be a haircut. And indeed there was a haircut. And so that has always been the politics of the New Patriotic Party, especially under the leadership of Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia and His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. They believe in the politics of deception. They deceived us that they were going to give us $1 million per constituency. One district, one factory. Many of their their party loyalists attempted apologizing for same. Do you think that the good people of this country queued in 2016 and in 2020 to vote for Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, the NPP, and Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, only to be apologized to years later? And that is why I started my submission by saying that we must go beyond this politics of remorse and accepting shame,
But Hamza,
especially when it comes
Hamza,
to us as citizens of the Republic of Ghana. Do you have an idea of the number of Ghanaians who have died as a result of that?
Hamza, you are a young leader. You understand that in the leadership journey, you can take certain decisions, albeit for a good intention, with good intention and for a good end. But along the way, it might take a different course. What is wrong with realizing that and saying that I made a mistake?
Whichever way you dress it is failure. If I take a decision as a leader and the consequences are not what I desire, I have failed.
Okay.
And no amount of apology would erase the fact that I have failed. And that's the reason why I'm saying that, look, if we do not take care and entertain this culture of apologizing and saying that I did it with all the best of intentions in the world, that is how the political class will continue to take us for granted. You presented a manifesto to the good people of this country, and you promised that you are going to change their lives. Kojo, is Nana Addo's apology or that of the NPP, would it bring back those who have lost their lives as a result of the DDEP? Is it going to bring back the revenues, the resources that you lost as a citizen of the Republic of Ghana for simply daring to invest in government bonds?
I'm sure when
and so these are some of the questions we should be asking.
When he
so
comes back,
look, somebody should tell His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo that these are sins the good people of this country will not forgive. And that the only way we would forgive such sins is if politicians begin to become responsible in the kind of promises they make. Right. Let us not window dress this matter, Kojo.
Okay.
Nana Addo is one of the failures of our democracy as far as the Fourth Republic is concerned. And that failure was ably supported and influenced by no less a person than Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. And look, generations must be told the mess these guys subjected the Republic of Ghana to, not just in our economy. And that is the most painful thing. Even the rise of journalists, even after passing the RTA, were taken for granted. Journalists lost their lives.
Okay, so I have a doctor
in the 21st century. Under Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia.
Hello, Doc. Good morning. Hello, Doc. Can you hear me? Doc, good morning. Okay, I'll get back to Doc. But former minister.
Yes, sir.
I'm wondering why. I mean, you are in the Eastern region. Yes. The president could have come to Eastern region to tell Ghanaians what he feels or his decision or his reflection on this debt restructuring. He could have done it in Greater Accra, Volta region, any of the 16, where the people who suffered the effect, like Hamza said, those who lost revenue, those whose parents or family or relatives lost lives, lost possessions because of this decision. He chose no other place than Brussels to go say this. Does this not speak more to the fact that we are, as a political party, as a country, we are not honest to our people that voted for us to come serve them.
Thank you very much. I think that you have to situate this discussion in a certain perspective. By virtue of technology, it is not only our country's people, Ghanaians, who are watching what we are doing now. Anybody who comes on your stream globally will watch us. Besides, we're a country who have decided not to just sit with their sovereignty, but interdepend on other states. And so we share. That's why we go on the international capital market, the international bond market, to go and trade. And so everybody gets to see us as a global person. So wherever we stand and speak, we speak directly to the people, because they are the people we work with. And I don't have any issue with where His Excellency, my boss, made the statement. Now, I listened to Suyini when he was speaking, and I was asking myself, are we still in Ghana? And I said, yes, we're still in Ghana. At least I was privileged to be in Parliament in 2009. And I saw the same behavior and attitude by the then NDC. And the man he quoted, Dr. Kwabena Dufo, who subsequently decided to run as a leader in the political party, came to Parliament. That was the first time I had heard Sikam Pedide, which my boss also repeated in recent times. President Kufuor, when he took office, looking at the economy at the time, decided to go to our multilateral partners, the Bretton Woods, by which a major decision was made, HIPC, and some debt forgiveness were given to Ghana so we could rebuild and become relevant. I think results of that rebuilding became clear to all of us, with us being able to do some transformative social impact interventions. The National Health Insurance Scheme, we were able to get some relief and make some savings and apply that to such useful social purposes of our people. In that same leadership and under that administration, we were met with drought. By the year 2006, a global drought had hit Ghana as well. And then energy crisis had emerged after a decade. It hit President Rawlings in 96, 97, 98, energy crisis. At the turn of a decade, by 2006, 2007, we had been hit by the same energy crisis, and that was making the global market instability on oil prices affecting our economy, because we are a net, even though we had struck oil, and we struck oil under President Kufuor, we are a net importer of crude. And so if anything in the international market affects us directly. So it brought us all these issues. Our friends told us that we are stealing the gold bars from the Bank of Ghana. We were so reckless with our expenditure. That is the language. So sometimes today when I hear that leaders of our time are advocating about our language, I look at who is saying this. The first person to tell the whole country that there are 17 thieves, I'm quoting, 17 thieves going to elect
A senior thief.
as prime thief, prime minister thief, the senior, or whatever you may call, is the current chairman of the National Democratic Congress, trying to metamorph themselves into people who don't give such bad language. The introduction of bad language into our body politic has been coming from their stock. We've been preaching against it. Today, they are telling us that we have to change from it. I pray that they become remorseful and demonstrate same strength when they go and come to a position like I'm in a position. Now, I don't know the obsession of Dr. Bawumia, the obsession Hamza is having about Dr. Bawumia, and trying to say everything about Dr. Bawumia. Dr. Bawumia was the vice president of our country. Yes, he admitted some errors that they made in office. I always say that it's not for nothing that we have a statement that to err is human. And it takes leadership and an honest person to say, I am sorry for what I did. And I respect President Akufo-Addo for having that courage to say that I am sorry for the debt exchange program. It wasn't no mean an exercise. It was a very tough decision to take. We knew that decision where we were going to take was going to hurt us. Indeed, it hurt us. We were punished and heavily punished. Looking at our results with our numbers in the People's Forum in Parliament today. But he's been honest enough to say that this is my take and I come to you for pardon and forgiveness. I don't think that is going to be the only time you get opportunity to speak again and speak to it. But I see, on the flip side, once we were telling the whole world that COVID really impacted on our gains we had made in the first term of Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo's administration, my friends in NDC and even our current president were saying no. All in the home front, God being so good. Recently, he held a summit that those of us considered as third world and global world in health, managing health, had a health summit here. How, with what is happening globally, how are we going to sustain? One major profound statement he made, that a decade savings has just been wiped off in the health sector by COVID. At least admitting that indeed something untoward happened that needed to be said. And for me, when such commentary is made, I just keep cool and will say, no, I don't rush, because definitely you eat humble pie. However, let me state that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo introduced the free senior high school. Today, we are gathering information around our country, and people are being told that this is my choice, that is my choice. Doctor just told us that political communication and political advancement, messaging is important. I have taken a very serious note of Musa Dankwa's poll. And I will not just sit here and talk about it, but I'm going to take my time. It's science to dissect it and see how I can help my political party build going forward on what he has put out for us. And I'll go on to say that Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo came to lead this country. And he did some good things for us. As a Christian, I am happy he decided to put up a cathedral. My Bible tells me that King David prepared to build the temple for God. But God in his wisdom said, no, David, my son, I won't allow you. Solomon will build my temple for me. The thought alone, I give credit to Nana Addo for taking that decision. We don't have a place of congregation for us as the denomination of Christian based. And I believe and I know one day that matter will come up and we will achieve it. At least a foundation stone was made. And it is still a burning matter. But I want to also add that political parties are living organisms. I know that my brother Kwame and his immediate close friends believe that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia just dropped from somewhere to be a member of our political party. Yes, you build a political party to attract members into your political party. If for nothing at all, I can say that for the past 16 years and more, a decade and more, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is a fully fledged member of the New Patriotic Party. It's unfortunate that some friends that Kwame is so close to keep putting that rhetoric out there for us to believe as if Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia is not. No, if he wasn't, he's been your running mate, supported you, you've won power, you still maintained him. You still want to say he's not a member of the political party. Then who is a member of that political party? And so they should stop that kind of narrative. It's not helping them. It's not good. We are friends. And I know those friends who are peddling that information. I want to speak to them from this platform.
Look into the camera and speak to them.
No. I'm so fortunate to be at the same 180 degrees angle to your camera.
Yes.
And please stop that. It goes nowhere. We all have that history. We know the history. We know where everybody joined. If you are older than me and you joined in 1992 and you were seeing when we were building the Kwabuzia Club, yes, that is thumbs up to you. But we were the kids who were following the seniors. Today, I've become a grown-up in this political party with this quiet beard. And we are growing our political party. So let us stop. He just joined this. He just came back. He just did. You have also left. Haven't you left? You should come back. I need you back. So we become a strong force. When NDC was in issue, when they had their issue, and the Guzitanos and co left, today Guzitano is supporting John Dramani Mahama to help build the NDC again. Let us not destroy our New Patriotic Party that we have all struggled and toiled to build. Let us help it and make it become the best political party ever.
Thank you. Kwame, I'll come to you, but let me understand Dr. John Osain Kwapong is back on Zoom. Hello, Doc. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Good morning.
Good morning, Doc. I hope you're good.
Yes, I'm good.
Okay. So a quick question. I don't know whether you've been following, but we were speaking to the president or the former president, sorry, at the G20 framework when he indicated that how sorry he felt or the pain or the agony he goes through thinking back at the decisions he had to take, especially that with the debt restructuring. And my question to you, especially, you, CDD, is when this same government was in power and people were telling them their struggles with this decision, they seem not to want to admit to the people. Is it a case that you only get to know how bad your decision is when you step out of the picture? Or it was just politics as usual? They knew it, but they had to defend it because it was a decision of theirs?
Good morning to you once again. Good morning to your co-panelists. Special greetings to my senior from St. Peter's, the Honorable Senator Champo. Talking about what the president said at the G20 summit, I think sometimes in leadership you have to make some very difficult decisions, and I believe that when we look back in 2022, when the previous government decided it was time to go to the IMF because of the major economic pinch points that the country was facing, given the options that they had at that point, I believe, regardless of how difficult it was still what the president and his government felt it was the necessary but painful thing to do. And if you go back then to some of the rhetoric, yes, whilst they defended the policy choice that they were making, there was also recognition that it wasn't an easy choice to make. There was that recognition that it would be painful, and it really was. If you think back to some of the pensioners that kept picketing at the Ministry of Finance, all the different commentaries, the impact. We all know people who felt the pain of some of these haircuts. It takes a lot post your presidency to look back and be able to admit some of the painful decisions that you had to make. And I like the way the former president phrased it, which is, the darkest moment in my presidency. For me, it tells me that he did recognize the challenge back then, and still recognizes that it was a policy decision that had quite a major impact on the lives of many Ghanaians. Does it mean that we only get to, quote unquote, know the truth, or our politicians are only willing to admit things when they are no longer in office? Not necessarily, because again, the one thing that would be a little puzzling was the president, in one of his public addresses, did assure the nation that there were not going to be any haircuts, which at that point, when that conversation was emerging, would have definitely given the Ghanaians some sense of relief that maybe all the chatter in the public space was not necessarily true. So for that to have happened, for me, one of the questions I regularly ask is, at what point then did things turn in such a way that the president was now ready to support this very painful policy that he now admits? That's one. Hindsight is always 2020 vision, but in that turnaround from an assurance that it would happen to when that policy decision was made, I believe it would have been helpful for the president to have re-engaged the Ghanaian people and said, look, I had given you assurance that there will be no haircut. I had given you assurance that ignore all of the chatter in the public space. But from the way things are progressing and the trajectory of our economy at this point, there are certain painful decisions that we have to make. One of it is going to be this debt restructuring that would have impact on the lives of many of you. I assure you that it is not a decision that my government is taking very lightly, blah, blah, etc., etc. I think that at that point would have made the political fallout from that decision less severe than it ended up being, and as we saw in the results of the 2024 election. But overall, though, again, for me, it just points to what leadership truly is like, and some of the post-reflections that our leaders do engage in when they look back and think to some of the policies that at the point when they were making it believed to be in the best interest of the nation, no matter how painful or how difficult it was.
Doc, back to studio. So Kwame.
Yeah. I think Kwame wanted to make a point. Allow him to make the point.
Okay.
You see, interestingly and conveniently,
Hamza spoke about re-inheriting their useful, economic build-up and decisions they took in 2015 that we inherited. Today, we're being told that we are having a single.
So let me just make viewers aware that Hamza had to take leave of us. So Hamza took leave of us. He had an emergency he has to attend to at some other location, and so that's how come he's left. So if you don't see him or you don't hear from him, that's the reason why. Yes. So please go.
So we're talking about single-digit inflation. We've seen our currency stabilize and decline. All these were good decisions taken by the previous administration. And let's always remind ourselves, I won't sit here and just speak. Governance is a continuum. And if good decisions are taken and you come and inherit, it's always proper you acknowledge and not just run administrations down. That is one of the weaknesses that for me has been hurting our democracy and hurting our country. We need to be honest and say the right messages. Yes, we are in competition, but we don't compete all the time.
When you came this morning, you asked a very interesting question. What you said is the answer to the question.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. Yes. We are dishonest with most of the things we do. And instead of facing the fact, but I can't choose for everybody in life because life is by our own choices. But I dare say that, this economy is as a result of our collective decisions and build up. That's where we are today.
Right. So Kwame,
Yes.
would you say this confession by the president, because from what you said earlier, your earlier submission, gives some level of advantage to the NPP going into the 2028 election, because now there's an admission.
Yeah.
This is his darkest, one of his most darkest moments or night of decisions as a president. Admission is what you asked for.
Yeah.
Is this a change?
Well, I think what is most important in this case is what you do with the admission. You know, there's one thing admitting that you have committed a wrong, and there's another actualizing on that admission. So, for instance, the president says, "Oh, it was one of my darkest moments. I should have listened to the concerns of Ghanaians. We shouldn't have done the haircut, etc., etc." Of course, I don't want to go into the nitty-gritties of what triggered that, that restructuring process. I don't want to go into that because I'm sure I may wake up, some dead emotions, and I don't want to do that. I don't want to remind Ghanaians of the ordeal they had to go through, and that the Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, because it was such a painful sight. And what made it more painful was because of government's deaf-tonedness to the plight, the visible plight of our mothers and our fathers, those who had contributed significantly to the development of Ghana, go through such ordeals without government listening and attempting to even do something about it. It was the most painful, process or exercise that they had to. And I've always maintained that as young as we are all contributing in our own little ways to the development of this country. And if you are young and you contribute significantly to the development and progress of your country, when you are old, the country ought to take care of you. So it beggars belief that for people who, in my estimation, the country has failed to take care of, have managed to save small, so that in the latter days, they will be able to take care of themselves. The very country that they sacrificed so much for will do this to them. It's so painful. And so undoubtedly, President Dankwa Akufo-Addo is not wrong. Because it's something that was axiomatic to all of us. It was clear, it was palpable. We all knew what it was. But sometimes, we as politicians and as actors and players within this whole political experiment, oftentimes when we get power, we forget the people who give us the power. And we act as though we are an isolated group. And for us, it is us against them. Governance is not about us against them. Governance is a collective exercise or enterprise for the purposes of advancing the, if you like, the progress of the people and furthering the aspirations of the generality of the Ghanaian people. That is the most important aspect of governance. And so if you conduct yourself in a manner which raises concerns, which poses questions, and which brings about burning and very teething issues which ought to be addressed, and you refuse to address them, and that leads to you taking decisions that ultimately really led to the demise of people. It's quite painful. So that fact ought to be established. And again, this is just scratching the surface, because I don't want to go into the details of it, about talking about the demonstration and all this. I don't want to talk about that. Now let's now posit the issues clearly. And I like how you pose the question. Brilliant question. That once the president has admitted, what is my position now? I have always liked Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Always. Because he has some aura. Because of his personality. Because of how he represented Ghana. Both within Ghana and outside of Ghana. Look, you can hate him, whatever, but he had a personality that you cannot take away from him. It's God-given, it's in it. He had it, and he still has it. And I'm happy that on his birthday, when I tweeted at him, he responded. So I'm happy. We took pictures when I was with him in Rwanda. I've met him, we've had, different conversations, etc. I like him so much. My point is this. Does he, in admitting the decision that he took relative to the debt restructuring, also admit that it is because of the people that he surrounded himself with that we got to the point where he had to take very difficult decisions. Because you see, if you identify a problem, and doctor is here, you have identified that this is the problem, you must also identify why the problem, or what is causing that problem. The people that His Excellency Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo surrounded himself with are the people who led to his downfall. Because one thing that I know about President Akufo, and I stand to be corrected because I'm not a member of the NPP. Exactly. So then,
you are part of
I'm saying that, no, but you were not really part of his inner circles. You know what I'm talking about, Big Bro. You know what I'm talking about. That he surrounded himself with people who were only chasing self-aggrandizement, whose only interest was in stealing from the people, whose only interest was to, elevate themselves from the shackles of poverty, whose only interest was to just, flaunt wealth, fly in our faces wealth, build mansions and all of that. I have countless examples of, things that people amassed when they were in power. People that I knew personally. I'm not saying that politics is work, right? So yes, but if you amass wealth at a certain point where Ghanaians have to pay or suffer for the wealth that you are accumulating by reason of your closeness to power, then you are a wicked person. That's the point I'm trying to establish. So the president, in admitting that that was his darkest moment in his political career, must also admit that it is precisely because of his own actions and inactions which led him to that darkest moment in his political career.
Right.
Now, going forward, what do we do with that information?
So you end on that one?
Could you?
Oh no, going forward. I mean, going forward.
Yeah, I'm going for. But the first part, you see, you truncated me. I didn't complete. This one, let me expand more. I respect. I'm a journalist, so I respect that. But the point I really want to make, because you see, we are all active participants in this whole enterprise called democracy. We are all active participants. I mean, at some point, you'll find people voting. I'm sure Doctor has voted for MPP before and has voted for NDC before. If you are somebody who's very progressive and somebody who is not swimming in, extreme partisanship, and your only interest is about the progress of Ghana, I'm sure at some point when you listen to policies, you juxtapose and say, oh, okay, this one is better than this one. You vote for this one, you vote for that one, right? That is where progress. So we would do with that information what that information ought to be done with, or what we ought to do with that information. And what do we have to do with that information? I told the MPP after they lost the election, I was on record, and it was everywhere, that they needed to do self-introspection. They needed to, first of all, apologize to the good people of this country, the things that they did which led to this monumental defeat that they suffered. I told them. Of course, subsequent to that, people came and insulted me on social media. That's fine. But subsequent to that, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia came out and apologized. The president, the former president, has also apologized. My point is this, that in your apology, you see, you can apologize and say, I'm sorry. And you can feel the emotions behind that apology. You can apologize and say, I'm sorry. And you can see the aggression behind that apology. What apology?
Or you can even say, I'm sorry if you feel offended.
Thank you very much. That's even worse. So, which apology is the president or the former president? Which of the apologies are we talking about here? Is it the emotional apology? Is it apology because of the defeat by reason of the decision? Or is it this apology that I want to apologize about? Conditional apology. That one, the president, former president, is the best person to tell us. In concluding, I want to sound a caution to current leaders and future leaders that this country belongs to the good people of this country, all of us. And this thing about we are in power, we won't listen. We are in power, we won't listen. When we are offering advice, whether or not it's from a good place, because they think that you are adversarial, they will not listen to you. It's wrong. After election, that's what people say, after election, no campaign. after election, we must present one unified arrow. Because in the final analysis, that singular decision that Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo took, if he had listened to opposing positions, I'm sure he would not have taken that position. But that decision affected our grandmothers and our grandfathers. So, and I'm sure that those people, some of them who died, perhaps were even members of the NPP. So what I'm trying to say in the final analysis is that please and please and please, this is an admonishment to the current administration as well, that we are all humans. You do not have an IQ that beats anybody's IQ. It is just an opportunity and a privilege that you've been given by the good people of this country, that in this moment, it is your leadership that we trust. In this moment, Kwame is the one that we think can take us to the promised land. And therefore, we are giving Kwame the opportunity to serve. It doesn't mean Kwame is a better human being than Doc. So when we advise, please listen. We don't want a situation where later you would mount platforms and podiums coming to apologize to the good people of this country for actions and inactions that you were advised against, which you refuse to listen.
Well noted.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we have a few comments I would want to read. This texter did not leave his name, but he says that there's one fact. So this one goes to, I'm sure, to you, Senior Kwame. So I have Senior Kwame and Junior Kwame here. Right. So he says that there's one fact that you are not pointing out, which is what resulted in MPP's humiliating defeat, which is that of arrogance, the collapse of banks, the haircuts, and people losing their treasury bills or causing other investments locked up in GN collapse, and others like Men's Good, plus numerous other financial institutions. Period. There is nothing else. So this texter obviously is not happy. Wood says that we should understand that we are not friends in the first place. Nana Addo had a vision from God, and he couldn't honor God. For 8 years, couldn't build a cathedral for God. Couldn't admit your fault that you have failed Ghanaians and say sorry to us in Ghana. You apologizing in another country means Nana Addo is not truly sorry. You have failed and hurt Ghanaians. Sorry, we can never ever forgive you, and we can't change anything. Okay. Derek also says that I'm enjoying the show. I really like the way you and the panelists are presenting the facts. Keep it up. Thank you, Derek. Okay, there are some other ones because of time. Let me just come back in studio. Doc, I'm coming to you. I'm switching a bit to and I'll ask my team to play a soundbite from the the president's engagement with the CSOs on Galamsey.
Don't let Doc have a bite on
I'll mix the two for him so that when he flows for, because I have about 20 minutes to close, so I'm just giving and he's going. So Doc, you can fuse it together. But the president says that when the national security tells him that it's time for state of emergency, he would declare it. Even though he has the power, he would only do it under the advice of national security. Let's hold on. Let's watch the soundbite so then, Doc, you can speak to it right after.
On advice of the National Security Council. And as at now, this moment, the National Security Council believes that we can win the fight against Galamsey without a state of emergency. I want to assure you that the day they advise me otherwise, that boss, now we need a state of emergency, I will not hesitate in declaring a state of emergency. But we do still think that we have the powers to be able to win this fight. And as we deploy more troops and we apply more resources to the fight, I'm sure that gradually we'll begin to see that we're winning the fight. So like I said, this is not going to be a one-stop dialogue. We're going to continue to update you. We need.
Right. So the president says when the people come to him and say, boss, where we have got into. So in other words, it's not what all of us are saying. It's when national security come to him and say, boss, where we have gotten to, it's time for state emergency. That is when and only when he will declare. Doc.
Thank you very much.
Maybe I'm sure are you that boss or are you the one who's going to tell him that boss? Because they say what you are saying, he doesn't hear. He only hears when national security says that boss, we are there.
Thank you very much. Let me just give my thoughts on the domestic debt restructuring program.
So you can probably do that 1 minute and then do this in 3 minutes.
Yes, I think people are elected into authority to improve the lot of the citizenry. And we must put that on record. So when the NPP was in power, the first and foremost thing that they have to prioritize should be the interest of us, the citizenry. And when the country was in difficulty, they opted for the debt restructuring program as one of the policy options. But it is important to state that when implementing a policy, when you get the feedback from the citizenry through the feedback mechanism, you get back to the drawing board, you do a review, and then based on the review and then the public sentiment about the policy, especially how the policy is affecting the people, then you take a decision. And I am convinced deep within myself that the former president and his key members knew that the policy at the time was inimical to the growth and then the development of the state and then the safeguarding of the investment of the citizenry. But then because of political expediency, so they failed to actually come up with the concerns that the president is expressing now in the form of an apology. So for me, aside the issue of transparency, accountability, and all those things in governance, the issue of responsiveness is very, very important. The issue of genuineness in governance is important. So yes, it has come better late than never, but if the president had done this earlier in the course of his administration, he would have left a legacy for himself that this is a president who actually acknowledged his fault, was in office, and then at the point of election, he was bold enough to own up that we erred.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it is the citizens who have lost their investment and all those, which for me is not good. So in future leaders or current leaders and future leaders should take a cue from me that whenever there's an issue, they should own up to it and not sacrifice the interest of the citizens on the altar of politics.
I like where you have ended. So on this note,
yes,
the future is now.
Yes.
The current president
yes.
is telling us what you just said, that if there's a problem, they should own up to it, accept it, and deal with it. The president is telling us that he would only accept it, own it, and deal with it the way the people want it to be dealt with when his national security tells him to.
Yes. I mean, we have structures in a governance system, and the president, though he has ultimate responsibility for everything, but at the end of the day, the system puts structures in place where consultation and all those things, and then he has the advisors and all those things. I'm sure that's where he is drawing from. But if you look at the discourse going on, it is not everybody who is in favor of the declaration of the state of emergency.
Really?
It is not. Even when you listen to the meeting with the CSO yesterday, yes, some people argued for it, but others also declared that this is not the time to declare a state of emergency. So you see, the issue of galamsey or illegal mining is very complex, multifaceted, amorphous, and is what we call a wicked problem in public policy. And you cannot adopt a single approach in resolving the issue. And we declaring the state of emergency alone will not solve the problem, but we must adopt multiple strategies in dealing with it. And listening to all the presentations yesterday. One, what the NDC government came to meet, what they have done, and then what they intend doing. But then they adopted the collaborative governance approach, where the stakeholders in the governance of the state were invited, in this case, the civil society organization. And then their thoughts were picked on the way forward. But then before I come to the thoughts and then the way forward, you realize that within this brief period, the NDC government has done a couple of things that they should be commended for. But then I think they have a problem of not properly transmitting their messages to the public. If not yesterday's program, some of the achievement that they've chalked within this short period, as far as the illegal mining is concerned, I wouldn't have known of it. So they should also be forthcoming with information on whatever they have done. And yesterday too, the president was quick to admit that yes, they chalked some successes, but then following a review, they realized that whenever they are able to get the forest back from the illegal miners, they will kill their people. And then the illegal miners go back. And then going forward, they are going to put up the necessary strategies in place. So you realize that there's some level of review even within whatever they are doing, but they should be forthcoming with information. I'm happy to say that he indicated that this is not the only time they are going to meet the CSO, but going forward, they will do that. Now, to add,
I do got 1 minute for me,
yes,
so I go
to add all the views that were received yesterday, it wouldn't materialize if we do not have effective implementation and enforcement. So implementation is key. And I'm also happy to hear that the government has adopted the bottom-up approach, because when chiefs are now involved, metropolitan municipal and district chief, district assemblies are also involved in the process. So effective implementation, effective enforcement. Then we as citizens, we must also have attitudinal and behavioral change as far as dealing with the issue of galamsey is concerned. If we do not change our attitude and our behavior and become ethical and professional in the fight against galamsey, all the mechanisms that have been put in place, it will come to naught. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Back to Zoom, Doc. Are you there with me, Doc?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Doc. So CDD, I mean, in the middle of your name is development, and so I'm coming to you with this in mind. I heard the president, I heard the minister, I heard other people speaking, and seem to tell us certain successes that have been chalked, or some successes that have emerged out of what has been done so far. My question to you is, what really should we measure as success? What's the KPI for this fight against galamsey? What is it that we want to see to say and count as success? Is it just the gaslighting things that we do to make it seem out there that we are doing something, or they are really things that are supposed to be done and that we can call successes?
I mean, one of the key things that we, has become the face of this galamsey thing is the regular pictures of the polluted river bodies that we see. So for me, any successful fight against galamsey, one, should demonstrate the extent to which we have been able to reclaim and quote unquote clean up some of these polluted water bodies. Besides that, I know the Ghana Water Company, for example, has been pointing out the fact that it is costing them more to treat the water now that they pump into our homes. So again, a successful fight against galamsey reduce, to what extent are we seeing that cost of water treatment going down? The kinds of mercury levels that we find or do not find in our water, all of those things for me are important KPIs. Another important KPI definitely would be whether the success or the progress we make that we don't get to a point where the issue re-emerges. Because if you think back to the ban, that 1 year, I think it lasted about 1 year, where the former president banned small-scale mining for a year. That allowed him then to put in certain measures to fight the menace. But then if you think back to subsequent years, and if you look at where we are now, you see that that issue has re-emerged. So for me, as successful fighters, at what point do we stop going through these cycles of good times, bad times, and get to a place, a stable place where even if you don't eliminate it 100% completely, that you'll be able to reduce it to the barest minimum. We also want to see, for me, one of the things I would also like to see is successful enforcement of the law and punishment for those who engage in this illegal activity, because that is one of the surest ways that you can deter continued and engagement in Galamsey, right? So the people we arrest, and not just the people on the front lines who are digging the pits, but those who are also on the back end who finance these operations with money, with the heavy equipment. Are you holding them accountable when you arrest them? Are you exacting the kinds of punishment that sends a strong message that we are not going to tolerate engagement in this activity? Not to justify Galamsey, but the other part of the conversation that I hope would also feature is the economic incentives that drive people to get into this. There are issues of jobs at stake, particularly jobs for the youth. And so when the job creation efforts of any government is not matching the demand for it, then it forces people to engage in some of these illegal things. It's not a justification, but I think in clamping down on this menace, you would have to also think then about how you re-engage the productive energies of the people engaged in this dangerous illegal work into more productive sectors of the economy. And for that, and again, is one of the things that I also always wondered why the former NPP government did not highlight the importance of the Alternative Livelihoods Program, because I think that provided us with a model of thinking about how, if we quote-unquote take away the economic livelihoods of people who are engaged in this illegal activity, that is there a path of putting them on the legal, productive economic engagements. Whatever good or bad about that policy initiative, I believe there are some important lessons that can be learned from it as we think of that other side of the equation of how do we successfully fight the issue of Galamsey.
Kwame Jr., as a Mayanka boy, you hear what the president has said.
Yeah.
In 2 minutes.
Well, two quick things. First, I'm happy about the fact that we're having this conversation, that we are open to it, that we are trying to find a lasting solution to the problems. I am all for having constructive conversations and putting forward practical solutions in addressing teething challenges, right? So this, for me, is a step in the right direction that the president even thought it wise to meet with the civil sector organizations and to judge on. Oftentimes, the CSOs, they sit behind the desk and they proffer solutions. So this time around, we're saying that, come, let's all together find a lasting solution. So I'm happy that the president did that yesterday. Number two is that, and I think Doc mentioned it, that he didn't understand why the previous administration did not talk about alternative livelihood support for those in the small-scale mining scheme. Thing is, those who are doing the illegal mine are making so much money, right? So what can you give to them as an alternative that will make them heed to the call for them to suspend what they are doing? I think that if you look at the great transformational plan that was put forward by Alan Kojo Kyerematen, there are some fundamental things which we ought to look at, and we presented same to President John Dramani Mahama, that one of the things that we needed to do is to, for the people who are involved, right, try and register them as a group and then give them a concession, fence the concession so they are there, so that you can monitor them. But also doing that, then you are migrating them to becoming small-scale miners with licenses that can ensure proper regulation.
Right.
So that is, something that we ought to look at. Beyond that also, and I'm ending
30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm doing that for you right now. Beyond that also, it's a much more collaborative work. It is not about whether we must declare a state of emergency now or not. We have to also look at the gains that this administration has made relative to the fight against Galamsey. The introduction of the NIMOS, it was non-existent from the beginning. The Blue Water Guard, the responsible mining, something that they have put together. These are, I think, better initiatives that if we are able to ensure that there is fire underneath, the pan, will bring the results that we are looking for. But I think also attitudinal change is very important.
Very good.
Quite actually very significant this one.
So I'll ask my producer to get me a beat. Before we go, I'll let you hop on that beat and do a line or two. About at least some 5 bars will be okay for me. Kwame Senior. So yes.
My last bite on this. I think we are still work in progress. I wouldn't want to go after the administration so strong, because if I do so, I'm doing, equalization. If I'm to go into history, under President Kufuor, where I was working as a young adult, I didn't see Galamsey in that scale. It started peaking under President Mills, and then President Mahama, and then under Anado, and it's still now becoming so strong. It's an existential threat that we should all go and make sure that we get right results. My only challenge is when my colleagues who are in office today begin to do those numbers. We've arrested 1,005. That's not what we're talking about. What Kwame talked about, at least we're making an effort. Alternative livelihood, they are getting jobs for other people to go and support the fight. Because for me, our water bodies are so crucial for me. Our forest is so crucial to me. I would not lose them for anything, because the kind of chemicals that are going into the soil will affect me, because the food I eat comes from there. The water I drink comes from there. If I don't cook from my home and I get out and I want to eat from an eatery, the food, where is it coming from? That's the reason why we speak against these things. I don't want to just make political capital out of it and just go away. So I've never changed my narrative. And like Doc said, I don't believe in state of emergency. We must be responsible adults. That's why we said you have to do responsible mining. You need to make sure you get people proper digging permits, proper leases. Let's educate ourselves. Mining is an economic activity. Let's get people the right knowledge and get them into it. But before I leave, I need to tell Dr. Osani that I respect him so much for what he's been able to achieve for himself, coming from a good school like the one I attended.
And Dr. Osai, I'll reach out to you. I'm going to be organizing my Forum for Accountability, the series, and I'll call you as well, Doc. Maybe you will moderate it for me.
That's
Forum for Accountability. And I think one last thing.
No, but I want to tell Kwame to go and Honorable Alan that I am coming for him.
Right.
I need him back home.
Yeah. The one last thing that I want
and the stock who he took away. I want all of them back home.
One of the things that I really respectfully just a minute want to touch on is about communication. Communication. And I think that it is lacking, which is why we are not seeing the gains that this administration. And I think it has always been, if you like, a foundational error of the NDC's administration. They need to go back and always present the facts to the people. Let us see what they are doing, and then we will not conjecture.
Okay, so viewers, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, Hamza Suhini. Thank you, said Kwame Achampong, aka E-Nice. He thinks that I don't remember that. I remember him very well.
This is not E-Nice. I have E-Nice.
No, okay, sorry. Oh, I moved from sorry. Kwame Owusu, aka E-Nice, formerly of Echo.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, the Golo Golo hit makers. Thank you very much, Doctor. Also to the other doctor online. Thank you, viewers, for making time and spending the morning with us. We'll be here with you same time next week. Enjoy your week. God bless you.
was brought to you by Bank of Africa, the African bank with global reach. Bank of Africa, as strong as a group, as close as a partner.
Dawns. Another season begins. A season of...
The issue of responsiveness is very, very important. The issue of genuineness in governance is important. So, yes, it has come better late than never. But if the president had done this earlier in the course of his administration, he would have left a legacy for himself that this is a president who actually acknowledged his fault, was in office, and then at the point of election, he was bold enough to own up that we erred.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it is the citizens who have lost their investment and all those, which for me is not good. So in future leaders or current leaders and future leaders should take a cue from me that whenever there's an issue, they should own up to it and not sacrifice the interest of the citizens on the altar of politics.
I like where you have ended. So on this note,
yes,
the future is now.
Yes,
the current president,
yes,
is telling us what you just said, that if there's a problem, they should own up to it, accept it, and deal with it. The president is telling us that he would only accept it, own it, and deal with it the way the people want it to be dealt with when his national security tells him to.
Yes. I mean, we have structures in a governance system, and the president, though he has ultimate responsibility for everything, but at the end of the day, the system puts structures in place where consultation and all those things, and then he has the advisors and all those things. I'm sure that's where he is drawing from. But if you look at the discourse going on, it is not everybody who is in favor of the declaration of the state of emergency.
Really?
It is not. Even when you listen to the meeting with the CSO yesterday, yes, some people argued for it, but others also declared that this is not the time to declare a state of emergency. So you see, the issue of galamsey or illegal mining is very complex, multifaceted, amorphous, and is what you call a wicked problem in public policy. And you cannot adopt a single approach in resolving the issue. And we declaring the state of emergency alone will not solve the problem, but we must adopt multiple strategies in dealing with it. And listening to all the presentations yesterday, one, what the NDC government came to meet, what they have done, and then what they intend doing. But then they adopted the collaborative governance approach where the stakeholders in the governance of the state were invited, in this case, the civil society organization. And then their thoughts were picked on the way forward. But then before I come to the thoughts and then the way forward, you realize that within this brief period, the NDC government has done a couple of things that they should be commended for. But then I think they have a problem of not properly transmitting their messages to the public. If not yesterday's program, some of the achievement that they've chalked within this short period, as far as the illegal mining this is concerned, I wouldn't have known of it. So they should also be forthcoming with information, whatever they have done. And yesterday too, the president was quick to admit that yes, they chalked some successes, but then following a review, they realized that whenever they are able to get the forest back from the illegal miners, they will kill their people. And then the illegal miners go back. And then going forward, they are going to put up the necessary strategies in place. So you realize that there's some level of review even within whatever they are doing, but they should be forthcoming with information. I'm happy to say that he indicated that this is not the only time they are going to meet the CSO, but going forward, they will do that. Now, to add,
you got 1 minute for me,
yes,
so I go
to add all the views that were received yesterday. It wouldn't materialize if we do not have effective implementation and enforcement. So implementation is key. And I'm also happy to hear that the government has adopted the bottom-up approach, because when chiefs are now involved, metropolitan municipal and district chief, district assemblies are also involved in the process. So effective implementation, effective enforcement. Then we as citizens, we must also have attitudinal and behavioral change as far as dealing with the issue of galamsey is concerned. If we do not change our attitude and our behavior and become ethical and professional in the fight against galamsey, all the mechanisms that have been put in place, it will come to naught. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Back to Zoom, Doc. Are you there with me, Doc?
Yes, I am.
Okay, Doc. So CDD, I mean, in the middle of your name is development, and so I'm coming to you with this in mind. I heard the president, I heard the minister, I heard other people speaking, and seem to tell us certain successes that have been chalked, or some successes that have emerged out of what has been done so far. My question to you is, what really should we measure as success? What's the KPI for this fight against galamsey? What is it that we want to see to say and count as success? Is it just the gaslighting things that we do to make it seem out there that we are doing something, or they are really things that are supposed to be done and that we can call successes?
I mean, one of the key things that we, has become the face of this galamsey thing is the regular pictures of the polluted river bodies that we see. So for me, any successful fight against galamsey, one, should demonstrate the extent to which we have been able to reclaim and quote unquote clean up some of these polluted water bodies. Besides that, I know the Ghana Water Company, for example, has been pointing out the fact that it is costing them more to treat the water now that they pump into our homes. So again, a successful fight against galamsey reduce, to what extent are we seeing that cost of water treatment going down? The kinds of mercury levels that we find or do not find in our water, all of those things for me are important KPIs. Another important KPI definitely would be whether the success or the progress we make, that we don't get to a point where the issue re-emerges. Because if you think back to the ban, that 1 year, I think it lasted about 1 year, where the former president banned small-scale mining for a year. That allowed him then to put in certain measures to fight the menace. But then if you think back to subsequent years, and if you look at where we are now, you see that that issue has re-emerged. So for me, a successful fight is, at what point do we stop going through these cycles of good times, bad times, and get to a place, a stable place where even if you don't eliminate it 100% completely, that you'll be able to reduce it to the barest minimum. We also want to see, for me, one of the things I would also like to see is successful enforcement of the law and punishment for those who engage in this illegal activity, because that is one of the surest ways that you can deter continued engagement in Galamsey, right? So the people we arrest, and not just the people on the front lines who are digging the pits, but those who are also on the back end who finance these operations with money, with the heavy equipment. Are you holding them accountable when you arrest them? Are you exacting the kinds of punishment that sends a strong message that we are not going to tolerate engagement in this activity? Not to justify Galamsey, but the other part of the conversation that I hope would also feature is the economic incentives that drive people to get into this. There are issues of jobs at stake, particularly jobs for the youth. And so when the job creation efforts of any government is not matching the demand for it, then it forces people to engage in some of these illegal things. It's not a justification, but I think in clamping down on this menace, you would have to also think then about how you re-engage the productive energies of the people engaged in this dangerous illegal work into more productive sectors of the economy. And for that, and again, is one of the things that I also always wondered why the former NPP government did not highlight the importance of the Alternative Livelihoods Program, because I think that provided us with a model of thinking about how, if we quote-unquote take away the economic livelihoods of people who are engaged in this illegal activity, that is there a path of putting them on the legal, productive economic engagements. Whatever good or bad about that policy initiative, I believe there are some important lessons that can be learned from it as we think of that other side of the equation of how do we successfully fight the issue of Galamsey.
Kwame Jr., as a Mayanka boy, you hear what the president has said.
Yeah.
In 2 minutes.
Well, two quick things. First, I'm happy about the fact that we're having this conversation. That we are open to it, that we are trying to find a lasting solution to the problems. I am all for having constructive conversations and putting forward practical solutions in addressing teething challenges, right? So this, for me, is a step in the right direction, that the president even thought it wise to meet with the civil sector organizations and to judge on. Oftentimes, the CSOs, they sit behind the desk and they proffer solutions. So this time around, we're saying that, come, let's all together find a lasting solution. So I'm happy that the president did that yesterday. Number two is that, and I think Doc mentioned it, that he didn't understand why the previous administration did not talk about alternative livelihood support for those in the small scale mining scheme. Thing is, those who are doing the illegal mine are making so much money, right? So what can you give to them as an alternative that will make them heed to the call for them to suspend what they are doing? I think that if you look at the great transformational plan that was put forward by Alan Kojo Chemante, there are some fundamental things which we ought to look at, and we presented same to President John Dramani Mahama, that one of the things that we needed to do is to, for the people who are involved, right, try and register them as a group and then give them a concession, fence the concession so they are there, so that you can monitor them. But also doing that, then you are migrating them to becoming small-scale miners with licenses that can ensure proper regulation. Right. So that is, something that we ought to look at. Beyond that, also, and I'm ending. 30 seconds. Yeah, I'm doing that for you right now. Beyond that, also, it's a much more collaborative work. It is not about whether we must declare a state of emergency now or not. We have to also look at the gains that this administration has made relative to the fight against Galamsey. And the introduction of the NIMOS, it was non-existent from the beginning. The Blue Water Guard, the responsible mining, something that they have put together. These are, I think, better initiatives that, if we are able to ensure that there is fire underneath, the pan, will bring the results that we are looking for. But I think also attitudinal change is very important.
Very good.
Quite actually very significant.
So I'll ask my producer to get me a beat. Before we go, I'll let you hop on that beat and do a line or two. About at least some 5 bars will be okay for me. Kwame Senior. So yes.
My last bite on this. I think we are still work in progress. I wouldn't want to go after the administration so strong, because if I do so, I'm doing, equalization. If I'm to go into history, under President Kufuor, where I was working as a young adult, I didn't see Galamsey in that scale. Started peaking under President Mills, and then President Mahama, and then under Anado, and it's still now becoming so strong. It's an existential threat that we should all go and make sure that we get right results. My only challenge is when my colleagues who are in office today begin to do those numbers. We've arrested 1,005. That's not what we're talking about. What Kwame talked about, at least we're making an effort. Alternative livelihood, they are getting just for other people to go and support the fight. Because for me, our water bodies are so crucial for me. Our forest is so crucial to me. I would not lose them for anything, because the kind of chemicals that are going into the soil will affect me, because the food I eat comes from there. The water I drink comes from there. If I don't cook from my home and I get out and I want to eat from an eatery, the food, where is it coming from? That's the reason why we speak against these things. I don't want to just make political capital out of it and just go away. So I've never changed my narrative. And like Doc said, I don't believe in state of emergency. We must be responsible adults. That's why we said you have to do responsible mining. You need to make sure you get people proper digging permits, proper leases. Let's educate ourselves. Mining is an economic activity. Let's get people the right knowledge and get them into it. But before I leave, I need to tell Dr. Osai that I respect him so much for what he's been able to achieve for himself, coming from a good school like the one I attended.
And Dr. Osai, I'll reach out to you. I'm going to be organizing my Forum for Accountability, the series, and I'll call you as well, Doc. Maybe you will moderate it for me. That's Forum for Accountability. And I think one last thing.
No, but I want to tell Kwame to go and tell
or twist fairness for favor. Ghana needs leaders who inspire, not exploit. Leaders who build, not dismantle. Strong leadership is service, not power. It means speaking the truth even when it will make you unpopular. Twist fairness for favor. Guidance of the nation's conscience among the people.